What's poppin', everybody? Welcome back to the 100th episode of On the Gutter. Of course, this is brought to you guys by Motive Bowling. We could not make it this far without the love and the support from Motive Bowling. So if you guys are looking for the best bowling balls on the market, make sure you head on over to motivebowling.com for all your bowling ball needs. This is like perfect timing right now. We have the 100th episode and we have a dual release coming from Motive. So the first brand new release we have is Evoke. And the Evoke is a bright colored bowling ball. It looks super sick. It's blue, green, pink. It's got these six swirl to it, honestly. It looks really cool going down the lane. But the best thing about the Evoke is that it's got this brand new overload core. And what that is that it's the most versatile core that Motive has ever released. So the great thing about this ball is that if you drill it pin down in like a closer pin to PAP kind of ratio, you can have a weaker, slower motion, kind of something underneath a Pride Dynasty, maybe like a Thrill Solid, somewhere in that area where you can kind of bridge that gap. If you're somebody like me who needs kind of bigger hooking balls for more than not on most patterns, you can drill it with a higher pin, a little bit farther away from your pin to PAP, and all of a sudden you have this brand new bowling ball. It hooks way more than what you could actually see from a lower pin to PAP layout. So this new overload core is amazing. It's the most versatile core that Motive has ever released, and I cannot wait for this. On top of that, we also released a brand new tank Rampage Pearl. So obviously there's been a lot of controversy going on with urethanes, microcell polymers, what's being classified, the hardness, what's going on here. And Motive has knocked it out of the park with a brand new tank Rampage Pearl. Now, somebody who has thrown Motive for quite some time now, I had the original tank Rampage, and I threw that ball on so many short patterns. It was like my go-to ball. The one thing I love about this brand new tank Rampage Pearl is that it's kind of a step down from the purple tank, which was our last like real urethane bowling ball. And it doesn't hook as much as a tank carbide, which is great for me because I prefer to keep my angles straighter, especially on shorter patterns. So this tank Rampage Pearl meets all the standards that the USBC and PBA have, implemented, as well as providing us with the motion and actually using the gear core to get the ball to go through the pins better than a traditional urethane would. And I've thrown this ball on a couple different patterns already, and I'm in love with it. So if you guys are looking for the best bowling balls on the market, make sure you head on over to motivebowling.com, hit up buddiesprosshop.com, or visit your local pro shop and get motivated. Now, guys, like I said, it's the 100th episode. And of course, this is DJ, if you guys haven't heard from me before. And I'm joined by the normal co-host, Mr. Kurt Ridgewell. Kurt, what's going on?
What up, DJ? 100 episodes, dude. How did we get here?
It's unbelievable, man. Like I've literally spoken to so many people about this, and I'm like, I have people coming up. It's like, hey, how's the podcast doing? Hey, we listen to the podcast, and I'm like, it's great, and you can kind of hear it every once in a while. And obviously, every time somebody says, hey, we listen to the podcast, it makes me feel amazing. But it's just crazy to think that we're 2 years in, 100 episodes in, and just look back at all the guests and all the episodes that we've had.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. I always, go to tournaments and I'll have people come up to me and say they listen to the show, they love the podcast, even at team trials, I had Mark Buffa come up to me and said, great job with the podcast.
Nice.
And yeah, it's a great feeling, man. I'm glad people are listening and enjoying the show.
Yeah. So obviously, with it being the 100th episode, we had to go big, right? So if you guys have seen the Facebook post, which I hope you have, you know who our guest is. We're joined by the most popular, most followed, most social media influential person out there in bowling, Miss Daria Pajak. We have Daria on the podcast. Listen to the interview with her. It is incredible. Beyond that, obviously, you guys are maybe seeing this as well. This is our first episode that we're going to post on YouTube. So this is a big step for us. I couldn't tell you how many times people were like, DJ, upload to YouTube, upload to YouTube. I'm like, guys, I have a face for radio. I'm not doing YouTube. But I figure 100 episodes in, we have Daria, have to post it on YouTube. So this is our first episode on YouTube. On top of that, we're kind of killing in all three sections. We also are doing a massive giveaway. So we have 5 different prizes that we will be giving away. And how you guys are able to enter that is go to the Facebook page with this episode, and make sure you comment what's your favorite episode and tag a friend. That's all you have to do. If you want to submit it on YouTube, same thing. Let us know what your favorite episode of the podcast was if you've been listening to the audio versions as well. Maybe shout out a new YouTube channel or one of your favorite YouTube channels, your favorite YouTube creator, whatever it may be. Leave us a drop on the YouTube comment. We'll drop the link in the Facebook post as well, and then we'll be all set to go. So, like I said, we're going to kind of give away 5 different prizes. So, the first 2 prizes that will be a part of the giveaway, the first one is a book from Bowling This Month. It is the brand new book, One Frame at a Time from Tyrell Rose, and it's an amazing book. I have it. I know Kurt has it. I think pretty much most bowlers have it. So if you haven't ordered it yet, make sure you guys enter the contest because you'll have a chance to win that as a giveaway prize. The second prize that we're giving away is a Buddies Pro Shop prize pack. So Buddies is donating a different prize pack from them. Got some merch, got some Buddies accessories, got a few different things in there. So again, just another prize that anybody can win. That being said, this is usually from most North Americans, so USA and Canada. If you're listening to this podcast and you're from Europe, Asia, Australia, or wherever you may be, and your name is selected, we'll try and figure out a way to get those to you or find a different alternative. But yeah, we're going to be drawing this in about 2 weeks. I'll make sure that the Facebook is updated, and Kurt and I will be doing a live video so that way you guys can see. And there's no funny business going on. We're just going to go through, select 5 random winners, and we're going to work up the tiers. So as always, we typically talk about our weeks of bowling, and this is brought to you guys by Mojo's DJ Services. So for all your entertainment purpose needs, make sure you head on over to mojosdjservices.com. He's got everything that you need. Joe's got a full list of bangers, fireworks, indoor lighting, street lighting, strobe lighting, anything that you guys could possibly need. Obviously, Valentine's Day is coming up. If you guys are hosting a singles party, if you guys want to serenade somebody, you can go there. You got St. Patty's Day coming up. I look Irish. I'm not Irish, but I'm always down for a good St. Patty's drink. So if you guys need any entertainment purpose needs, head on over to Mojo's Disc Jockey Services on Facebook or mojosdjservices.com. So Kurt, what was your week of bowling like?
Man, those prizes sound good. Make sure you guys stick around for the rest of the episode. DJ's gonna name off the rest of the great prizes we'll be giving away. Yeah, my week of bowling, nothing too special. As I mentioned in the last episode, I'm just kind of coming back off an injury from team trials. So all I bowled this week was league. League wasn't all that great, but you know what? Coming back from being hurt, I'll take it. I did shoot about 590, which is more than I can say I've gotten in previous weeks at league. So, one step at a time, getting back to it. And other than that, that is all I have done on the lanes. How about yourself, DJ?
Yeah, so this has been kind of weird. I effed up, if I'm being honest here. This is our second time recording this episode, this portion of the episode, because something went wrong with my audio. I didn't clue into something and I screwed it up. So since then, bowling has kind of been okay. Like I bowled league, didn't really bowl too well. I threw the brand new Evoke and it looked amazing. Definitely missed a transition like game two. I missed two spares. One was the 1-2-10, which it's makeable slash not makeable. It's kind of tough with a washout. And then I ended up missing a 10 pin in the second game. And I think that was just out of frustration slash like just a lack of focus. But I've been basically in the lab just practicing, getting some work in. As many people know, I did lose my papa. So there's been a little extra motivation for me to get into the bowling alley. My father passed away. Gus Badali, who was one of my coaches growing up, passed away, and now my papa is gone. And when I take a look back and I look at all three of those guys who were really big main factors in me growing up in the bowling world and just practicing and how much they all pushed me to become the bowler I am, definitely adds a little bit more motivation. Say, hey, DJ, like, do it for them, not necessarily for yourself. So, yeah, I've been putting in a lot of work, doing a lot of practicing, making some trick shot videos. Basically just continuing to grow, continue to work on being a competitive bowler, or getting back into the competition side of it. So not a lot of tournaments over the last like week and a half, 2 weeks for me because of everything going on. But yeah, league's been okay, like 620, 620, something like that, like nothing crazy. So yeah, hopefully just continue to get in the lab, get more practice sessions in, and got a couple tournaments coming up this week. So we'll see how that all plays out.
Now that you got a lot of bowling ahead of you, and sorry to hear about your loss, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So let's get into the weekend recap.
Yes, and as always, our weekend recap is brought to us by Buddy's Pro Shop. Buddy's Pro Shop wants to recognize your success by introducing the Buddy's Pro Shop Bowler of the Week and Month programs. The winners will be hooked up with free Buddy's merch, and one lucky winner winning a free ball of choice every month. So head on over to Buddy's Pro Shop on Facebook to find out more details on how you can enter that contest. So this week we had three regionals, one of which was a PWBA regional, and we're going to start there. We had the PWBA Myrtle Beach regional. This one was won by Carson Lucosius, winning $1,800. And to round out the top four of that one, we had Annalise O'Brien, Carrie Smith, and Karina Grasso. And then we had two PBA regionals, the PBA Bolero Open and the PBA 50 Bolero Open, respectfully. So we had In the PBA Bolero Open, Jason Robarge gets the win, taking home $2,600. And rounding out the top four, we had Timothy Jacob, Gregory Thompson Jr., and Daniel McLean. And in the PBA 50 Bolero Open, the winner was John Gould, taking home $1,900. And rounding out the top four there, we had Keith Dahmer, Richard Miller, and Andrew Lomosios.
Wow. So some tough last names there, but obviously
Yeah.
regional season is a little bit slower. The PWBA regional season is just starting, so shout out to Carson for that win. But yeah, it's obviously kind of a little bit lighter for the regional season, given that the PBA is back in session and the RPI just finished. So kind of like that lollygag in between the two. Obviously, there's plenty more other tournaments. So we had the Open Doubles, which was presented by Brunswick, and that was won by Michael Holloman and AJ Rice. So not really a surprise to see those guys take down a win. We had Anthony Carrier. He won the Blanchet Open in 2024, which is a big, like a huge Quebec tournament that happens I think pretty much every year. We had Killian Patrick. He won the 61st annual Times News Open. So I know that's another big like kind of tournament. I think that tournament basically happens every single year. Then we had, of course, it's a Motive podcast. So we had Randy Weiss. He won the Charleston 8 Gamer, and he said it was like one of the biggest fields that they've had. And I know Charleston has a ton of great bowlers. It's kind of like one of those sections of the country that has plenty of good bowlers. And then the last one I also want to mention is something I'm going to rant a little bit about is that we had Joe Grondin winning the Michigan Majors Bowling Association first title this year, beating our good friend Darren Alexander in the finals. And the reason why I'm going to go on a small rant about this is because there's 9 entrants. There's 9 participants at this tournament, right? And this isn't me bashing Michigan majors. It's not me saying anything like that. There was a couple of factors for why this tournament had low participants. Well, one was that there's I think 2 other tournaments, one out in at Royal Sky. I think it was actually the doubles on top of like another tournament going on. Second of all, there was the Detroit Lions. They were playing in a game. This was a couple weeks ago now. Obviously, we've missed a couple episodes, but this was a couple weeks ago now, so Detroit was showing out for their hometown team. Obviously, if you're from Detroit or support Michigan teams, obviously U of M won, so go blue. But then you have the Red Wings who are doing okay, the Pistons who nobody wants to talk about. It's not baseball season, and then you have the Detroit Lions. So the fact that the Detroit Lions had a chance and were playing really well and ended up winning that game was another reason of why nobody was there. The third reason, which I fully believe, was that because it was a house shot. Now, there's 2 ways to look at this, right? First off, this is an association that's just getting back on its feet. It's been running. It was huge. It was super prestigious, and then it kind of fell down, and they're just trying to rebuild it back up, right? Now, the rules in the Michigan majors is that they allow the house to choose the patterns. That way, there's no bias going on. That being said, if you have a tournament, if you're hosting a tournament that has the word major or masters in it, and you want it to be a prestigious event, there's no reason why it should be on a house shot. That's my personal take. If you go to a prestigious tournament, you're like, hey, I want to beat the best, right? I want to be the number one shot maker that day. I want to make all my spares. I want to strike more than anybody. I want to go out and win the majors. I want to win the masters. Don't put it on a house shot. That allows people to go out there and throw the ball willy-nilly wherever they want and strike for most times, right? And that's one thing for me. That being said, Joe's obviously an amazing bowler. Darren's obviously an amazing bowler. So the cream is going to rise to the top pretty much no matter where you go. I think that the procedures of having majors or masters in your tournament title is basically a reason to not throw it on a house shot. That being said, I know that they said, oh, the house can make the pattern, the house can choose a pattern. That's fine, but say, hey, listen, go ahead and choose from the 500 different patterns there are in the world, but don't make it a house shot or set a ratio. Say, hey, we need anything that's less than 5 to 1, 6 to 1. Anything more than that, don't choose that pattern, right? So that's the way I look at it. Obviously, like I said, I'm not trying to bash the Michigan majors or bash any association at all. I'm just saying from my viewpoint, if I go to a tournament and it says majors or masters or it's something prestigious, by no means do I want to show up there and bowl on an 8 to 1 and 9 to 1 pattern. It's not just because I don't strike as much as everybody. I just think that it takes away from the actual tournament.
Yeah, that's kind of dumb. I think, if you're gonna call yourself, a major or a masters, it needs to be something difficult. So I think the house knew this going in, that who was asking for a certain asking to put out a pattern, they should have known better than to just throw out their house shot. They should have
Absolutely.
kind of dug down and say, "Oh, we're gonna have a lot of, competition out here today, and we need to put out something a little more challenging." So
Absolutely.
unfortunately, that hurts the entries, and of course, with the Lions playing and all the other stuff going on. But nine. Nine bowlers, that's bad. And you have to imagine if they announced the pattern would have been something a little more challenging, it would have had a better turnout.
Yeah, I would think even if like hypothetically speaking, if they're like, hey, we're bowling on something tough, maybe 14, 15 bowlers show up, right? It's still not a lot, but there's more than nine people. There's quite a few people I know in Detroit who don't want to go to bowl on a house shot, especially at Thunderbolt, because Thunderbolt's house shot is wonky some days, or it's depending on the day, it's easy to strike on, or sometimes it favorites to a certain style of bowler. So yeah, like I said, may have been only five or six more entries, but would have been more entries. So that's kind of all I had to say about that. There's two announcements that obviously we want to cover. So the first one is that the votes have been tallied in for the superior performance for the USBC Hall of Fame. And this is really cool. The three nominees are Missy Parkin, or the three inductees, I should say, are Missy Parkin, Tommy Jones, and Sean Rash. Incredible class. What do you think?
Absolutely. A couple former guests of the podcast there, and all well deserving.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're amazing talents and they've done great things for the bowling industry. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, TJ, if you're listening, come on the podcast, dude. Like you're the only one that's missing. So, yeah, obviously it's super great to see that and see those three people inducted. The second announcement is that the PBA, the PWBA, and the PBA 50 just announced a brand new tournament. It's going to be a trios tournament with bowlers from each classification. That is so sick. I think this is great for bowling. It's all like professional bowlers at one time competing with each other and against each other. Now it's not just like the Lucy, it's now including the PBA 50 in this as well. So what's your process on this one?
I love it. I mean, it's basically taking the Lucy and now adding in the PBA 50 bowlers. It's another great showcase of all the great bowling talent that exists out there. And I think it's going to be an amazing event and everyone's going to have a lot of fun who bowls in there.
Absolutely. So, yeah, just a couple announcements that we wanted to cover. Before we get into the BTM quote this week, or the last two, I should say, I'm going to say the second or the third prize that we're going to be giving away. So, the third prize that we will be giving away is a turbo prize pack. So, it's got a pretty high value. It's going to include a whole bunch of turbo accessories, a couple different accessories, and like a couple cool things from Turbo, I guess I should say. So, they're going to surprise the winner with that. I'm super excited for that. Obviously, we got a lot of love for Turbo, all the guys over there and the team over there at Turbo. So super thankful for that. So if you guys are looking for some new accessories or just basically need to replenish your accessories, make sure you enter the giveaway because there will be a Turbo prize pack available to win. So that being said, we'll get into the BTM quote. So we have two quotes that we're going to cover real quick. So the first one is from Joe Slowinski, and it's called improving your stability at the foul line. And the quote is, all too often, some bowlers simply do not commit to making their best shot. If you listen to the podcast, Kurt is probably the poster boy for this one. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that's something I struggle with a lot, and I think a lot of people do struggle with it. So it's a great quote. You need to commit to your shot because if you're not committed to what you're about to do, then you're not going to throw it great and it's not going to be a good shot. You're not going to be able to repeat the shots. So committing to your shot is very, very important.
Yeah, and I'm gonna shameless plug this a little bit. So I've been drinking Zevia tea. They're not a sponsor of the podcast. I've been drinking their soda and their tea. And if you guys haven't clued in yet, you're gonna see the interview with Daria later. But I'm wearing different outfits if you're watching on YouTube. So this is different days. So with Daria, I think I was drinking Zevia soda, and now I'm drinking Zevia tea. But the one thing I've noticed with tea and especially the Zevia stuff is that it's kind of helped improve my focus. It's less of an energy drink. It's 0 calories, zero sugar, but it's been like a different, I guess, kind of product for me to try. And this is something that they promote with their focus that they have in the vitamins. And I'm a terrible person when it comes to focusing on shots, right? Like it is getting up there and saying, "Hey, I'm going to commit to this shot," and then my body's like, "No, you aren't," and then I just do something different. So yeah, committing to the best shot that you can throw is super important. And that's where the practice and repetitions come in. Is that if you're not mentally there, hopefully your physical game can kind of take over. But with somebody like myself, who I focus a lot on my release, like really trying to stay behind the ball, even though that's like impossible for me to do apparently, is that I try my best to commit to every shot. And I know that's something that I struggle with. And like I said, that's where the repetitions come in and everything like that. So if you're somebody who gets in there and you can continuously practice and really commit to your shot and say, hey, listen, this is I'm going to attack the line. I'm going to attack the approach. I'm going to throw the best shot. Like that will help you see so much more success. And just being able to repeat that is what creates even more success. So, yeah, it's a great quote. The second quote that we have is from past guests of the podcast. If you haven't listened, it's a great podcast. It's a great episode to talk about like the physical game and your actual physical being while competing in bowling. But it's from past guest Heather Sterner, and it says big scary goals. And this quote is the more meaningful you make your why behind your goals, the more likely you are to commit to them. So, Kurt, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, anything in your life, any goals you want to set for yourself, you have to make your why very meaningful in order to stay committed to those goals because at any, hiccup in the road, you may just hop off of your goals because it gets tough. And if your why is, meaningful and important to you, then you're more willing to stick to it to achieve those goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we struggle with that a lot as bowlers because the time that it takes to commit to practicing and being better is a lot, right? And especially with a game that doesn't owe you anything, like you can go out there and you can practice and you can still go to a tournament, shoot 180 because you don't carry that day or something else happens. Like it is tough to say, hey, my why is because I want to be a better bowler. I want to make more money at bowling, and you put all this time and you put so much effort in and it doesn't reward you, or it doesn't reward you for 6 months or a year, and that's really like defeating to a lot of people. I look at my whys in kind of a toxic way. I look at the things that have happened to me in my life and the people that have in a way done me wrong, or that situations haven't worked out the way that I was hoping for them to do. And I use that as my why. I'm like, I'm not going to let this ever happen again. Like that is my main motivation between me working out is like, wow, I don't want this to happen again. I don't want there to be a reason people be like, oh no, that's not going to work. So then as soon as I like go back through and I read some text messages or I look at some things and I get really upset, that's when I jump on the treadmill and I just start sprinting. And I don't stop sprinting until I can't take it anymore. So there's different reasons of why is your why, if that makes any sense. But it's just the understanding of why you're doing what you're doing and how you're going to get to your why. And I think that's a big thing is like you have to understand why you're doing something, why you're motivated, why you continue to work out, but you have to understand like there's a how. Like, how do I get to that process? How do I continue to keep going with everything that I'm doing, and how do I get better? Or how do I see how do I see more success? More success. So yeah, Heather, I think nails that. She, like I said, on our episode with her, talks a lot about it and kind of describes a lot about that quote in general. So, yeah, I think it was overall a good quote.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that one.
So, yeah, we're not going to do trivia this week because again, I kind of screwed up with this podcast. But before we get into the question of the week, the last prize that we will be giving away, or the second last prize that we will be giving away, is a brand new custom chameleon jersey. So shout out to Chameleon Sports where they are donating a jersey to the second place winner. So if you guys enter and as we're, selecting these names in a couple weeks and we say, hey, listen, you won the second prize, you'll be receiving a brand new chameleon jersey, custom made, everything for you, which I think is really cool. I obviously love jerseys. I usually kind of do some weird designs or like just a standard design with some bright colors. So super excited for that. Obviously, you guys can see if you're watching YouTube, Kurt's custom jersey there. But yeah, you guys will have a chance to win a brand new custom chameleon jersey.
Yeah, yeah, that's a sweet prize. I love that one. As you can see, I like some bright jerseys too. I got the On the Gutter logo on the bottom of this one here, and the next one I need needs to look like a Knicks jersey.
Yeah, yeah. So if you guys are listening, you're a sports fan and you know who Brunson is, because I have no idea who he is. But yeah, if you
He
guys
was
want
named
to,
to the All-Star game yesterday.
yeah, well, the All-Star for hockey's going on right now, and that's all I'm paying attention to. But yeah, if you guys are looking for a custom jersey, make sure you enter the giveaway. You'll have a chance to win it, and we'll even throw a little on the gutter logo on there for you guys. That way you can remember who you got it from. But yeah, let's get into the question of the week.
Yes. So our question of the week this week is, what is our favorite episode?
Yeah. So this one was kind of tough. I've been asked so many times as I've been talking with people about like, oh, we're episode 100, episode 100. They're like, well, what's your favorite one? And
You only have 99 to choose from.
yeah, literally, right? And it's funny because I'm going to cop out on this one. I'm not going to say I have a favorite episode. And the reason for that is that there's three different categories I've put episodes into. So the first category is people who have, seen success in bowling or who work in the industry, right? So there's been people that I've had on the podcast, such as Mike Shady, Mike Magellan, who work in the overall bowling industry, and then there's other people who have just done amazing things, like Darren or Marissa or whoever it may be, that have done amazing things within the bowling world, and I've had them on the podcast just to kind of talk about their success and see where they came from, and for everybody to kind of get a better understanding of who they are and where they come from. The second one is basically just my friends, right? So I've had some people on the podcast like Darren, Marissa, Dan McClellan, Packy Hanrahan, Andrew Anderson, like guys, Frank Snodgrass, Justin Knowles, like guys who I grew up with and who I bowled against for so many years, who I classify as my friends, where I'm like, I'm just having a conversation with them. It's just a normal conversation. Same with Mikey. Like we're just kind of talking, like it's nothing out of the blue for me to speak with these people. So it's kind of hard to be like, oh, this was my favorite episode because they're my friends. Like that doesn't work for me. And then the third category is like the legends of the game, right? So speaking to Pete Weber, Walter Ray, Norm Duke, like those episodes have been amazing. Like even guys like Tom Clark, Neil Stremmel, like the guys who you kind of look up to and you're like, wow, this is so and so, or this is the person who made these decisions, or this is Walter Ray. He's potentially the GOAT of bowling. It's like looking up to these guys is like, wow, this has been amazing. Like to have this conversation with them has been the separate category of itself within the podcast episode. So, like I said, I'm gonna cop out. I can't really say I have a favorite episode because I categorize it in three different sections, and I can't really pick amongst the three. So, yeah, I honestly just enjoy being able to interview all these people, having these conversations, no matter on which scale it is, and it's been a really cool ride so far. So, Kurt, I'm pretty sure I know what your favorite one is, but what is it?
That was a great cop out there, DJ. I
Thanks,
like
thanks.
that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's certainly not easy to pick my favorite, but as anyone who's been listening to the show for a long time may know, I don't get to partake in all of the interviews. So I've only done a few interviews with DJ, and I'm gonna have to go towards one of them. So the first one I think I did was with um, AJ Johnson,
Mhm.
and that was a real cool one. But I have had the chance to interview a few of the legends with Pete Weber and Walter Ray Williams Jr. So I'm gonna have to say Pete because Pete has always been my favorite, the bad boy of bowling. He's always the most entertaining guy to watch. So to get the opportunity to talk to him was such a cool experience. So I'm gonna have to pick that one as one of the hosts. But as a fan listening to interviews I haven't partaked in, I really enjoyed the Frank Snodgrass episode and
Mhm.
the Heather Sterner episode. If you guys haven't listened to those two, make sure you go back. They're just really good interviews, which are really enjoyable to listen to. So check those ones out.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, there's been so many good ones. And obviously, the AJ one was great. But I also had a lot of people, comment on the EJ one when we had EJ after the first year of On the Gutter and, having that conversation with him, listening to him get a little bit emotional about winning the doubles championship and everything like that. Those are the episodes that, again, kind of stand out to me is seeing the human side of these bowlers and not just the bowling side of these bowlers. So, yeah, there's been obviously a plenty of amazing episodes and hopefully plenty more to come. That being said, the last prize that we are giving away for the 100th episode, bow, 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 I'm actually going to insert an arrow in here. But the last prize that we will be giving away for this episode is a motive bowling ball of your choice. Doesn't matter which one. You pick and you win it, right? So if your name is picked last in the contest giveaway, you will be winning a motive bowling ball of your choice. So I would obviously suggest a brand new Evoke, maybe a Tank Rampage Pearl, but I'll sit down and talk with you, figure out exactly what you're looking for, what you might need, but you'll have your choice of any bowling ball that is in the current Motive lineup, and we will get you all squared away for that. So shout out again to Motive for all their support. Obviously, shout out to all of you guys. It's been an amazing ride so far. 2 years, 100 episodes. We have Daria coming on. We've had so many great guests. And of course, if you guys are enjoying the podcast and you want to continue to support us and listen to us, make sure you head on over to wherever you listen to, whether it be Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you listen to the podcast. Give us a like, leave us a review. We might have a new sponsor announced next week just because of the growth of the podcast. So just super thankful for everybody listening and all your guys' support. And of course, like I said, we do do have the interview coming up with Daria. All interviews are brought to you guys by Turbo Grips. So make sure you head on over to turbogrips.com for all your bowling accessory needs. Like I said, we're giving away a Turbo prize pack in this episode. And if you guys are needing some Ice Quad 2s, a chamois, a rosin bake, anything like that, head on over to turbogrips.com. If you want a training session, you can head on over to Turbo Tech in Chesterfield, Michigan, and they'll get you set up with the lessons. That way you can figure out exactly what you need and what you're looking for to get out your bowling game. But again, guys, thank you so much for all the support, helping us get to episode 100. Make sure you stick around to the interview with Daria because it is absolutely amazing. She tells some very touching stories and very interesting stories that really shows the human side of Daria. And yeah, stick around next week for another episode of On the Gutter. And as always, thanks, Kurt.
Thanks, DJ.
All right. So, like I said, for the 100th episode, we had to do it right. Last year, for one of our big episodes, we had EJ Tackett on. And this year, I had to have somebody on who has an amazing physical game, who has traveled all around the world for bowling, and somebody who has had the opportunity to influence so many bowlers and just be a role model for so many. But we're joined by Miss Daria Pajak. Daria, how are you doing today?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Of course. Did I pronounce the last name right? Was that
Actually,
close?
I'm surprised. I was waiting for it. If you're gonna like twitch and not really know what to say, but it was really good. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. My Polish brother-in-law should be proud. So, yeah, Daria, we wanted to have you on. I've had so many requests to have you on the podcast, and it's because of who you are and what you've done in bowling. So, I have to ask, where did it get started, and how did you get into the sport of bowling?
Well, it might sound crazy to a lot of people in the US, but I am the first generations of bowlers in my whole country. So the first bowling center was open in 99. So I was 6 at the time. I was born 93.
Hmm.
Uh, it just happened that my dad was a bodybuilder, so the bowling center was open in one of the biggest gyms that we had an hour away from our town where we live, because I lived in a very, very small town.
Yeah,
So when he would go to the gym, he would see that, oh, there's something like bowling opening up. And he told me and my mom, I was 6, and he was telling us that, oh, we're gonna go bowl. And when he was saying it, I had no idea what it was. He just said like, oh, you have like a ball, and then like you have to throw and knock the pins. And I remember sitting in the car and not being able to comprehend what it is,
yeah,
because I've never seen it before. So the moment I went in, I just fell in love, because it was loud music and the lights
yeah.
and people, and the fact that I could bowl my own lane, or I could be with my parents. It just started from there, to be honest. Like, it starts the same for everyone, I guess. Like, you sign up for league, then you start getting better, then I start getting coached. And after you get coached, you start entering the tournaments. After that, you progress from there. And that's how it went for me.
Okay. So that's kind of crazy because most people like grow up in a bowling family, like with their parents bowled the entire time and they're bowling leagues. And then by the time they're like 3, 4 years old, they started bowling. And yours was just kind of happen chance by like the fact that it was a bowling alley that just opened up and you started bowling because your dad's like, hey, let's go bowling. But it was more like cosmic bowling. It wasn't necessarily league bowling, right?
Well, it was just normal bowling, not even
Okay.
cosmic bowling. We
Oh,
was
okay.
just open lanes in the afternoon, So we went, and I was too small to bowl leagues right away. I think
Mhm.
I've never actually bowled leagues. I went from practicing and bowling next to my parents to bowling tournaments with adults, because bowling was so small that we didn't have different division, right? We didn't have youth and women and adult. We had
Mhm.
just one division of bowlers, and there was no handicap. Like,
Okay.
we were learning the sport on the go. Like, we
Okay.
didn't have the drillers for bowling balls. We didn't have two for the whole country, and the guys were living abroad. That's why they knew how to drill the balls. And
Okay.
we didn't have any coaching, right? There was no bowling on TV, or there was no social media or YouTube for you to be able to see how it's meant to look like. You just know
Okay.
that you have a task of having a bowling ball and having to knock down the pins. But other than that, you don't really know anything other than that.
That's incredible. So that leads me to the question of how did you develop your physical game? You have one of the best physical games in the entire world. What coach or what kind of helped you get to where you are as far as like physically throwing the ball?
Well, I'm humble. Thank you.
Of course, of
I'm
course.
very humble for you to say it. A physical game has always been important to me. So I started when I started bowling, I first threw backup, right, for a few
Okay.
years. Then I went to throw it normal, and I won the national championships, youth national championships. I got coached when I was 11 or 12 years old for 3 years with the guy that would teach me, the straight steps, the straight swing. But he was applying a lot of very old school methods to my practices. So, he would lift my shirt to make sure that my right shoulder is really high. He
Yeah.
would make sure when I follow through finishes by my ear, that the push away is really exaggerated, that my timing is the way by the book from back in the day, right?
Mhm.
He wanted me to have a glove. So I was getting better, but I always took bowling as a sport. Like when I say I was
Mhm.
coached 3 to 4 times a week with
Wow.
the tournaments on the weekends. And that's the regime that I had being, 12, 13, 14 years old. I basically did not bowl normal games during the week. I was always drills. It was always practice.
Okay.
But because I was being coached by the guy that had done his bronze certificate back in 80s or 90s, his ways of teaching were very old school. It was not something that I wanted, because I remember when I went for European youth championships, and you see the guys from like Germany, Sweden, and they have this high backswing and all this rev rate that I've never ever seen in my life, not on video, nowhere. Like I
Yeah.
knew that you can bowl some sort of way, but I've never seen this.
Okay.
And ever since that happened when I was 11, and that's when I was like, and that's how I'm gonna bowl. Like there was no doubt in my mind that there is a way women should bowl or men should bowl,
Mhm.
right? Something that I've learned, that there's always been that stigma in the USA and all the other countries. I've never had that because bowling was new to me, and I felt like if he can do it, why can I not do it? Right? It was never different for me.
Right.
So even when I was being coached by the coach that really wanted me to be, straight angles, a very old school type of a way, when I was doing drills, I would still do a foul line drill, trying to, rev the ball as much as I can. Like it
Okay.
was not something a part of his coaching, it was something that was a part of my soul. It's like, okay, I'm gonna have a free swing and straight back swing, but on top of that, I'm gonna make sure that the ball goes from left gutter to right gutter to left gutter again. If I did touch a pin, I was upset. It meant that my ball didn't hook enough. It meant it didn't have
Wow.
nerve rate, right? So those are the things as a kid I started doing. But then I wasn't really improving and my game was actually not getting better. So it happened that Costas, my current coach, had reached out to me saying that he is coming to Poland to coach. He is a USBC gold coach and he's from Cyprus, so from a different country. But he said he was coming and that he saw my game and he's really impressed and whatnot. And that like he would like to coach me and see where we can go together. And that's the first time when he would take me on the camera, explain me how and where I developed the higher amount of rev rate. He told me I have created something that is an elbow bend. So
Mhm.
I was loading and unloading an elbow, like absolutely crazy concept for me back then,
Yeah.
because I was never coached that. Something I have coached myself by not even trying to do it, right?
Yeah.
So when you put your mind into, I want to rev the ball, right? Your body is gonna find a way of how to do it, depending of how much time you give it, right? So if you
Mhm.
really, really get obsessed about wanting to rev the ball, you're gonna get it. Maybe it's not gonna be the right way by the book, maybe it's not gonna be perfect, but you're gonna figure it out. So I did figure it out, but I was very spinny, right? So I had a very high tilt. So even though I had more rev rate than most women, I was very spinny. The
Mhm.
way I was creating the rev rate was not right. The elbow was fine, but all the wrist action and fingers was just not good. So we started from there. He was fixing my timing, he was fixing my release, and then I went to the US to bowl for Weber International, and
Yeah.
that's it. That's
That
my
that is a wild story. Like not having anybody to necessarily look up to because you weren't watching pro bowlers and you go to a championship, you're like, I want to do that. And then you just end up doing that and making it successful over time and coaching and everything, like you said. But you just mentioned that you went to Weber and Weber has always been a big international school, Weber International, right? But you were there with Diana and Verity. And what was it like bowling at Weber? Because we bowled college at the same time, and I remember bowling like kind of near you guys. I think it was at the Hoosier or something like that. And you
Mhm.
guys were all bowling like basically hooking the ball left or right, which is more different than what we saw at most schools. So what was it like bowling for Weber and meeting obviously Verity, Diana, and everybody else that you met there?
It was great because there is some sort of bond that you create with the international people being in the US
Mhm.
because you understand struggles, right? From going abroad, and everybody has a different story of how they ended up in Weber. So that part of it was really cool. It was also nice that all the American students, all the American bowlers that were on the Weber team, they were very used to being around internationals, right? So
Yeah.
they were used to dealing with different accents, with maybe internationals saying weird stuff because of different customs, right? They
Yeah.
were a lot less judgmental than people that never have before had any contact with international people. And you
Mhm.
have to remember that we had people from Europe, we had probably people from Latin America, we had Asian. It was just all over the world, right? So
Right.
when you think about it, there are different behaviors, different customs, different accents. A lot of people did not speak very good English, so you had to have a lot of patience. So it was awesome that the culture of our team was so strong, and it was so encouraging and so welcoming that it made it a lot easier in that way. And me and Diana were friends from way, way before. We used to bowl
Mhm.
together at the European Youth Championships and stuff. So we knew each other for a very long time before I came to Weber. I did not know Verity. So me and Verity met the same year that both of us came to Weber.
Nice.
We entered the school the same year, and we graduated at the same time.
Mhm.
Uh, so having them was great. Our team was really strong. I was never a strong bowler for the Weber International. I feel like I have had my impact on getting the national championships because I bowled well on TV, and so did my girls. So we managed to win on TV. However, when I look through 4 years of my college bowling career, I wouldn't say it was like butterflies and rainbows. I didn't bowl all that well. I think I was not a player that the coach could count on when it comes to like, oh, Daria, she's always gonna get 9 or more spare. I
Yeah.
was more like a wild guess, right? If it's there, she's gonna strike all day. If it's not there, we don't know.
Okay.
Right. So that caused me to sit on the bench a lot on fresh. And because I have a lot more rev rate than most of the girls on the team, um, it would be right away known that's like, okay, Daria is not bowling on fresh. It doesn't matter how good my look would be when we're warming up. I'm not bowling on fresh because we have straight players that are going to bowl on fresh. And then Daria can come in when the lanes break down or if one of the girls struggles. But
Right.
as a player, if that happens to you week in and week out when you bowl for college, you always know you're gonna be benched for the first game. It's really hard to come in. Like you're
Mhm.
sitting cold for so long, right? Like you have that experience yourself too.
Yeah.
And then coach is like, okay, come in, throw a shot. Like it's a wild guess. Where do you stand? Where do you look? What ball you throw?
Yeah.
That's why the communication with the team is very important. And that's something we were being taught of how to communicate, how to make guesses off of each other lines.
Mhm.
But I felt like it was difficult, because my game was very different. I felt like I was playing in a different zone. It was very hard to be like, oh, I'm 2-1 left of you, or I'm 4-2. I was 16-8 sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's not because I have so much hand, it was because I couldn't control it well, right?
Okay.
So I would just either like overpower it and grab it, and I was a lot, I didn't know how to roll the ball to make it hookless in the bag. I didn't have a lot of skills that I do have now. And for some reason back then, we didn't like urethanes. I don't understand why. I've never had urethane being in college. Now on fresh, give me urethane. I can get 9 or more every
Yeah.
time now,
Yeah.
If I had that in college, things would have been different. So
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, during our college time, urethane, like you said, wasn't really a factor. Like it was from
yeah.
like up until basically 2018, 2019 is when urethane really became prominent on the PBA tour, PWBA tour in college
Mhm.
bowling. You go to any college tournament now, there's just urethane for days everywhere on each rack. So it was such a different time, even though it was only like 2 or 3 years ago before the big urethane craze, I guess I should say.
Mhm.
But you graduate college, obviously, like you said, you had your struggles, but you had your ups and downs with Weber, and then you go out on the PWBA tour. Was that always the goal for you when you moved to the States, was to just continue to pursue bowling? And even though, like you said, it was kind of ups and downs with Weber, was it always the goal to go to the PWBA?
No, it was never a goal. Not even once in my
Really?
mind, I was becoming a professional bowler. First of all, we don't have a tour, right?
Right.
Second, I'm a person that kind of goes with day by day. I do have goals and dreams, but being a professional bowler never was a goal because I never saw myself being able to make a living out of it. First, because there was no tour. Second, because even on the men's tour, it's really difficult,
Yeah.
and that's it. Like there was not something that I would aspire. It was just that I was a very good bowler back home. Before I left to Weber, I was 16 when I had one I would call like a Grand Slam in Poland. I have won every single tournament there was in Poland
Okay.
that there was to win with adults, right? So I won the Grand Prix and I won the Polish Championships, doubles, team, everything, right? There was to win. So I stopped getting better in a way. It's like, okay, like I was the best in the country, but then I would go to Europe and I would have a really hard time, like they were so much better. So coming into the States, I was coming with the idea like, okay, I'm gonna do my bachelor's and I can live in a different country and I can be with my friends, talking about Diana and all the other bowlers that I would consider friends, like if
Right.
you have one thing in common with people, it's already so much easier to come into the new environment. And then I was like, okay, and I can bowl. And
Yeah.
then maybe I can bowl tournaments on the weekends. That's awesome. So that's how it started, And then when I was in Weber, they started a tour. And I remember Diana was in the car with Verity and she's like, girls, we should be traveling all across America and we should be doing all those PWBA stuffs. And I just remember Verity and I were sitting in the back and we just look at each other like, Diana was just crazy. Like, what is she talking about? Like, we're not gonna be doing that. And
Yeah.
it took 2 years and we were doing exactly the same thing. So,
Yeah.
life can write crazy scenarios for you, but it was never something that I have planned or something that I was expecting myself to do when I'm 31, like I am right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, that's amazing, obviously, like just being like, no, that's never going to happen. And then now you are doing exactly that.
Yeah.
So, 2017, you're out on tour, maybe a little bit before that, but you won the PWBA Rookie of the Year in 2017, along with the Detroit Open, I think it was. So walk us through what it was like for you to be named PWBA Rookie of the Year, as well as winning a title in 2017.
Well, it was a really good year, It's like the first year coming on tour. Obviously, you don't have much money, so you really like depending on making the cuts. You're really
Mm,
depending on doing everything. But there was something about 2017 that I really enjoyed. Everything was new to me.
hmm
The girls were really nice. There was, the tour was just starting. We were just being thankful for everything that we have. Um, I remember having really bad tournaments in 2017, but I remember having really good tournaments like Detroit Open or US Open when I made the show and stuff
hmm
like that. But overall, I would just tell you that I remember 2017 as the year that I really enjoyed bowling. Like I loved being on the lanes. I remember I missed the very first cut for my very first PWBA event. I missed it maybe like 10 pins,
hmm
but my first PWBA event, we're bowling on 40 feet flat. It
Yeah,
was
tough.
1-1, and I was like, "The hell is this? We're starting the season of US Open, And I missed the cut, and I remember being so pissed off. I was
Yeah,
so mad because I could not bowl the next day. I'm
right.
like, okay, so what do I do? I'm here until Sunday. Tomorrow is Saturday. The girls are bowling. I just missed it by 10. So what do I was so incredibly mad that
hmm
I couldn't bowl. It wasn't even the idea like I didn't cash, which of course is important, but that was not my priority. My priority is that I could not show up and be on the lanes.
Right.
So saying all of this, that 2017 was the year that I really enjoyed it,
Yeah.
right? I really enjoyed bowling. I wanted to be on the lanes. I wanted to get better and better and better. And I think that's why it was a good year when it comes to like the success.
hmm
And probably that's why the other years were not that successful because I kind of lost the joy of bowling. And that has many reasoning why, not as an excuses, but in general, I feel like I was a bit overloaded with work when it comes to like doing clinics or demo days. When it comes to amount of games that we were bowling on tour, we went from bowling 6 games, break 6 games to bowling 8 games, break 8 games,
hmm
8 games next morning. That was a lot on the body. So even if you did make the cut after 16 games, if you were really far behind, you were waking up in the morning to bowl 8 games kind of for nothing. Like
Right.
unless you have the best day of your life, you would move up. But if you didn't and you were really far back, there was not much you could do. It was a big strain on the body. You were always didn't sleep enough because you would finish very late bowling the qualifier before you were bowling final step one, not enough food. My physical game I was really struggling. So overall, I think a lot of things have compounded on top of each other that will cause me to lose a little bit of joy of the sport,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
but you're a bowler too. So, there's those times when
Yeah.
bowling is so addictive because sometimes it takes one good performance or one good game for you to be like, I can do it. Like, I love it again. Let me
Yeah.
try again. And then you lose it again. And then you chase it. And when you chase it, you will take a break, but you always come back. So it's
Yeah.
like this addiction, this love-hate relationship. And I think most of us bowlers have it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's unfortunately it's the game that doesn't owe you anything. Like you can go there and you can throw so many good shots and you can go 7 pin, 10 pin, 8 pin, 9 pin, 4 pin, and you're just like, what else am I supposed to do here? Like I'm trying my best. I'm throwing the ball well, but
Yeah,
there's nothing that they owe us, right? So
yeah,
it's
that's bowling.
yeah, definitely very tough. But you mentioned it. You had a great time in 2017. You're having fun, enjoying bowling. You have rose to this stardom in all aspects of bowling. I mean, I did a quick little search, and not to throw shade at anybody, I went to Instagram, and oh, the major bowlers that I could think of, you have like 80,000 more followers than any other bowler that I can think of on Instagram. Same with Facebook. You have this following of fans, and you, like I said, you rose to this stardom. Have you felt that since like 2017, since the last 5 years of just being like the most popular bowler in the entire world? Like, do you think of that at all?
I don't know. Sometimes I do think about it because when you compare my performances rankings, we don't really have world rankings like tennis has, for example. But
Mm,
when you compare that, I'm nowhere near being top five or nowhere near being on top, but yet my name is kind of out there because of social media or because of my physical game or because of what I do. I wouldn't know exactly what's the reason why.
yeah.
But the truth is that I started working on my social media back in 2016. And when I mean working on my social media, I don't mean it the way we understand it nowadays. You have to
Mhm.
remember 8 years ago, social media was different. So
Right.
when I knew that I was gonna go on tour in 2017, I felt like bowling is not out there at all online. There is no bowlers posting anything on Instagram. If I wanted to know what X, Y, and Z bowler does for practice, I don't know what they do. I don't know where they fly, nothing. I had zero idea, right? The only thing I could see is the TV shows, and TV show is like what, 5% of a bowler life. We
Yeah.
don't know anything else, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna open up a Facebook page where I'm going to be writing in two languages, English and Polish, to let people know what I'm doing to get prepared for the PWBA tour in 2017. So
Right.
I started doing that, and I started having early success with starting of making the cut of the World Series of Bowling on Cheetah.
Hmm.
So I actually made a cut. I got the bye. I was top 8, and then I was bowling against Darren Tang. That we went into 7 games, and he beat me like it was like 250 against 260. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Uh, he bowled better, so he beat me. I fell out, and I was writing about it, and I really like writing because I read a lot. So putting grammatically nice sentences together, it gives me some sort of like pleasure, right? So I felt like back then, if I had a performance that either was good or bad, anything that will cause very high emotions, I felt like I had that skill to write it down on a piece of paper or on the phone or anywhere I was writing, and then I could share it. And I was feeling like I was showing the vulnerable side of me, but it didn't feel that way. I just felt like I was writing what I'm feeling to the people that care for me,
Yeah.
right? And then when I won in 2017, my following just like skyrocketed. I think it's because people saw me on TV, then they would probably look it up on Facebook. They would see that I'm posting a lot, and maybe they
Mhm.
have figured like, oh, she's posting the content that it really intrigued me. Like I like it. I like following her. I can be in her brain because she writes so much about like what she's going through or whatnot. And I think that's how it started. It didn't start with the viral videos
Mhm.
and reels and stuff. And my Instagram had skyrocketed from probably like 80,000 to 280 that I'm on right now back in 2021 when I was working with a videographer, and I was like doing some cool videos. It was mostly for fun, for the joy of doing it.
Yeah.
And I was just posting them, and for some reason I got a lot of traction to my Instagram. So, like the algorithm that nobody knows really how it works. Right? It was
Right.
really, really pushing my videos. So my numbers was growing day by day by day. And that's how I got to the following I have right now.
Hmm.
Why people have stayed or not, I cannot know. Like you will have to ask people that follow me, right? But I'm
Yeah.
so thankful for everyone, and I don't like calling them my fans. There's just don't like that word. It's like, hey, you are my top fan, you know. Today Facebook gave me a notification being like, oh, you should post about all your top fans from last week. And I'm like, I'm not gonna call them top fans because maybe those are my friends. Maybe
Right.
those are people that care for me. Why? Just that word, it triggers me in some way.
Okay.
So I never called my Facebook my fan page. It was just
Okay.
Daria page. You know, you wanna follow me? Go on my page. It's not fan page. Even though under some criteria it could be for some, I just call it my page when I share with a bigger audience that I could possibly do it on my personal pages. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important for athletes such as yourself who are seen in such a public light to have a fan page and then kind of keep their personal page a little bit separate because you don't want to kind of mix the two. And just that deals with privacy and so on and so forth. But like I said, you have just grown to this stardom and this recognition across the entire globe. And I know now, obviously, you're wearing your hoodie and it's got your
oh
logo on
yeah.
it. So what has it been like for you to have your own line of clothing now and be able to kind of use that stardom, that popularity to grow yourself as both a human being, as a brand, and as a bowler?
Well, it's been very personal more than anything, right?
Okay.
So releasing my new line of clothing like this one, like you can see the spider, it means a lot to me because my last name in Polish means spider.
Hmm.
So my jerseys when I was like small, we used to bowl like tournaments and stuff, and we had like a club jerseys, and in the club would be my mom, my dad, my uncle, myself, my sister. We all had spiders on the jerseys, right?
Nice.
It was
Yeah.
normal because legit, I am Daria Spider, like in my language. So it's like people would call me Hey Spider because that's my last name. So that's how they would call me. And I'm
Okay.
super used to it. So when I first released my logo that did not have a spider, it was I have two logos, my other XD logo.
Hmm.
I kind of wanted to go away from spider. I felt like maybe it's not a good idea. We know it's not a secret that Hammer has Black Widow line with the
Right.
spider on it. So
Yeah.
I felt like, maybe not conflict of interest, but I don't want to people think that when they see spider, they think Hammer, because I'm SPI. I've always been 900 global.
Right.
I signed off 900 global in 2016, so 8 years ago, and I'm not anticipating to change. I love them, I love them. I don't want to be with Hammer.
Yeah.
Uh, but I am a spider. Like that's my
Right.
last name.
Yeah.
So I pulled that trigger last year and I was like, yo, like, you know what? Like I have to go back to the roots because spider means so much to me. Like
Hmm.
it means a lot. So now that I came out with this line of clothing, I swear I did it mostly for me and my parents and anybody that like cares for me and wants to support me. But
Yeah.
mostly I wanted to see my mom, my dad, my sister, my nieces wear it because it's our family name,
Yeah.
it's just such a cool thing. So I went to Poland in December and Kuwait gifted me around 8 hoodies that I can give to my family.
Nice.
And it was really cool because we had a family party. We rented like out a restaurant and, we were there until like 1 a.m. And most of my family had worn those hoodies that I gifted them for. So we were like, out in the restaurant and then family members that are not bowlers at all are wearing my bowling hoodies and they're
Aw.
like super happy about it,
Yeah.
So seeing this and then having people from the bowling community wear them and really support it and support me and my logo gaining on attraction and being more recognizable every single day,
Hmm.
it's a lot, because it's like bringing my childhood to a different country, to the bowling world, to
Hmm.
somewhere where it's recognizable now. And it means a lot on the
Yeah.
personal side of it.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I think social media obviously allows for you to do. It's like you are who you are. You've got to where you are today because of yourself and because you're the support from your family. So for you to kind of almost gift that back to your family and say, "Hey, listen, like I am Dario Spider. Like this is who I am. This is who we are." And to chase your dreams
Mhm.
ish now on the PWBA tour and be a professional bowler where you have this spotlight on you just to say, "Hey, listen, like I'm a bowler. Like follow me on Instagram, whatever it may be." But the most important thing is that I still have my family and just you wearing that logo and everybody understanding what that logo means to you is so much more than you just throwing a bowling ball down the lane because you're representing your family and everybody, like I said, that supported you to get to where you are today.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So, having that and accomplishing this, I think it means a lot. And I've never been money driven person,
Yeah.
right? I'm like more passion driven or like people driven. That's what means a lot to me, making connections. But just if I had known when I was like 12 that there's gonna be people in the US wearing a spider on their chest because of me.
Hmm.
Like that, it would be mind blowing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, of course, nothing happens overnight like that. So I'm getting used to the fact that, like, oh, there are people who would buy a logo, my logo. There
Right.
are people who would buy the ball because I said it's good, because I like it. There are people that would try to follow my footsteps because they would want to be where I am. It's a very humbling experience, but it doesn't come overnight,
Yeah.
right? It happens throughout a long period of years and a long period of time, to where you slowly start to figure out how much impact you could possibly have on the sport itself, but also on individual people, you know. And I have opened a PO box where people can send me letters or gifts or whatnot, right?
Hmm.
um, I've had this since when I was living in Florida. I had a PO box, and now I have it here in Utah, and I collect those letters. And some letters are so mind blowing in a way, like things that
Hmm.
people write, and not even really good bowlers per se, right? Like not people that make any type of a living out of bowling, or just like, let's say, people that have a passion to bowling. They would mail me, and like with the handwritten letters saying of how much I have helped to get them out of a very dark times in their lives, because X, Y, and Z, because of that post I
Right.
made, because of what I said. So seeing that I have that sort of impact as well, it's something very humbling, and something that I'm not taking for granted, and
Hmm.
something that sometimes I'm afraid of. You know, it's like, what if I slip? What if I do something that's gonna upset these people? What if I do something that is just not a norm for others, right? But then I'm trying to go back and be like, I've always been who I am. I go by one rule. It's like, I'm not gonna post anything online that would my dad or my future kids would not approve of.
Yeah.
I want to be transparent on social media. And I guess the reason why some people follow me is because they approve of who I am to the core.
Hmm.
So if I ever doubt, like, should I say that or should I not say that? That's usually what I tend to go back to, you know, rethink my decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And like honestly, that's so touching because they're in anybody listening to this, I hope that you can kind of take this away is like you have tried so hard in life, obviously, like with coaching and just trying to be better at bowling and just trying to be who you are and stay to your roots. And that's kind of why we do the podcast is so that way people can kind of get the behind the scenes view of who these actual people are. Like you said, seeing bowling on TV is 5% of what bowlers actually go with. And I've always said, like, as an international person myself, international bowlers and athletes have it way harder than most people even realize when it comes to work visas, being away from family, school visas, going from one visa to the next visa, and just understanding how to be a permanent resident. Like, there's so much that goes into being an international athlete. So while you've been dealing with all that and continuing to work on your game as a professional athlete slash bowler, but staying true to yourself and just saying, hey, listen, like, I'm going to post online. Follow me if you want to follow me. Don't follow me if you don't want to follow me. Just know that who you're getting is the raw version of Daria. Like, that is beyond impactful. And I think that a lot of people can take something from that away because it's like, hey, like, obviously you want to promote the companies that you're with, but you also have to remain true to yourself. So if those things don't align, then you have to make a decision for yourself as an athlete if you want to stay with said brand or if you want to post said something if it doesn't, like I said, align with who you are. So I think that's a really good tip slash story is just, everybody listening, just stay true to yourself because the most followed bowler in the entire world has done exactly that for 8 years or whatever it's been since he really started on social media.
Yeah, I'm sure that, you know, a lot of bowlers that everybody that's listening might be following online, we all had made choices that no one sees, right?
Mhm.
We had made a choice to publish that or not publish that, or comment this and then get fined, or not comment that and don't get fined. A lot of people don't know that we have been quite strictly monitored through the organizations that we bowl for. And unfortunately, some of the things lead to fines, because
Mhm.
if you speak up about what you think is might be wrong, you're speaking up about the organization that gives you the outlet to bowl,
Right.
right? In a way, it gives you your living. Like that
Yeah.
would be for me. So there's a lot of things that cannot be said online, right?
Mhm.
Like I cannot say like I bowled this last weekend, but I bowled bad because this and this was wrong. Their
Right.
lanes were wrong. Something was happening. If I say that, I'm speaking against something. If I'm speaking against it, I might possibly get fined, which in many ways it's understandable. That's why some of us do like portals like Patreon, when we have this community, trusted community, that we can share some more stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not meaning that we share stuff to say what was wrong or stuff that we would normally get fined on Facebook, but there is some stuff, you know, that the more, I would say, maybe popular you are, the
Yeah.
more traction your posts get, the more people that are very negative also get attracted to it, right?
Yeah.
So some stuff that I would want to say, I feel a little bit afraid to say it because I know it can lead to a backlash. And
Mm-hmm.
it depends in what state of mind I am. Sometimes I feel like I cannot handle people saying a lot of negative things to me or about me.
Right.
Sometimes I feel like I don't care. It depends, right? If someone says like, oh, you're fat and stupid, like I don't even block it. It's just like, okay, it's internet, right? But
Yeah.
when someone says like, how can you be the most popular bowler on social media, but yet you suck so much every tournament you bowl? Like that gets to you, right? Because
Right.
part of it is true. It's like, oh, maybe yeah, I did miss the cut that last event, or I'm not winning tournaments like people say I should. This like stinks, you know, because that touches to the part of you that, you know, some of it could be true.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes whatever you post, you have to weigh that. It's like, am I strong enough to handle the criticisms? Am I not? So that's why a lot of us also start like subscription on Instagram. I don't do that, but there's a lot of bowlers that do like, you know, subscription stuff to
Mm-hmm.
where like once it's a very little amount of money that some of us would ask. It's not because of money itself. It's not because, oh, $1, right? Pay
Right.
$1 to see more. It's mostly that people do that pay are the ones that are committed to see what you do, and
Absolutely.
they're the ones that support you and the ones that are willing to go an extra step. That takes away all the internet trolls that would do it, right?
Yeah. That's a great perspective.
Yeah, but going back to like making decisions and choices about what you post online, there's a lot of times when we say no. And I cannot speak for others, I can speak for myself. I remember back in 2018, I was actually flown in to, let's say, particular state to do a campaign, right? So I knew that the photographer was going to be hired. We're going to be doing pictures that later would be used as a marketing. So when I got there, I got a call from a person that was organizing it, and they told me what was the idea behind the photo shoot. And I just remember my eyes almost popped out of my head, and I'm like, I'm not doing it. Like there
Mm-hmm.
is no way. And I was like feeling bad because I just flew in there and they spent all that money of me doing marketing. It's like, listen, I can do normal pictures,
Yeah.
but the idea behind the post was I was meant to be sitting in a bathtub, that I was meant to look like as if I was naked, but I wasn't going to be. I was gonna have a bathing suit, and I was gonna have shoes on my legs sticking out of the bathtub, right? And
Okay.
saying like too comfortable to take them out.
Okay.
And I'm like, I am not gonna do that
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'm not willing to sexualize myself to sell the product, because it's obvious that this type of campaigns are campaigns that used to be big back in 80s, 90s, early 2000s,
Mm-hmm.
because that's when we're using this type of
Marketing.
campaigns
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, marketing to attract attention to the product.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the other idea where I was meant to hold a different product, and you know, and also was meant to more be focusing more on me as a woman, attract attention to my body or whatnot. And I had to say, you know, I was like, I am not doing it. And
Yeah.
that's when you put your contract on the line. That's where you put maybe the trust of people that you work for, because they're like, they're doing so much for you. So
Right.
they're asking you, but then how do you say no? And
Mm-hmm.
I remember I wasn't really battling because I knew I wasn't doing it at all, period. Like I'm
Yeah.
not,
Yeah. That's a
right?
hard no. Yeah.
Yeah, if I ever decide to post a picture in a dress or high heels or whatnot, I do it on my own conditions, right?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do it because I'm getting paid for it. So those are the decisions that people don't realize we make. You know, we say
Mm-hmm.
no to a lot of things because we're not willing to affect our core values
Yeah.
for extra dollars. You know, I know a lot of people would probably sell their soul to the devil for
Right.
money, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of us that just wouldn't do it. And I think I'm one of them. And there's a lot of decisions like the one I just gave you an example of. There's a lot of different situations that were exactly like that. And it wouldn't matter how much money that was for or how much I would get paid for a campaign. I
Yeah.
still wouldn't do it.
Yeah. And I think that's refreshing for everybody to hear. I mean, there's, like you said, there's plenty of people who would sell their soul to the devil, but the fact that you have the following that you do, and you still were like, nope, this is my core values. I'm not doing this. Get out of here. Basically, that's a life lesson in itself, and I think that's something that everybody can take away. So that's thank you for sharing that. I know a couple more questions because I know you are a busy person. So what are your goals looking at for yourself, I guess, social media, but more so bowling? What are the goals that you have for the next 5 or 10 years as yourself and as a bowler?
Well, so the past years, especially like maybe 19 and 20, year 2018, 2019, I was
Mhm.
really struggling with my physical game. I was trying to become a player that I was not because of the lane condition of PWBA being extremely hard. That's when Liz Johnson was absolutely dominating. The straighter players
Yeah.
had it more because the lanes were so hard. They could control the pocket. They were doing good. I felt like, oh my God, with my game, I'm not able to perform to where I should. So I started changing my physical game to get into that mode of straighter angles, straighter forward roll. But then I realized with the numbers that I'm creating, rev rate and the speed, I'm unable to throw it straight because my ball is always going to go left. I'll
Yeah.
have to tumble it every time, but it's not who I am. And it took me a little bit too long to realize that I cannot be that way. So I've been struggling a lot. And then I had injury in 2022 all year. I really struggled. So
Hmm.
this year, this past year, 2023, actually was a very big disappointment to me because I felt like I was ready. I wasn't struggling with the elbow injury. I wasn't in pain. I did have to take good care of it, but I wasn't in pain. So I don't have an excuse saying like, yeah, last year was bad because X, Y, and Z.
Right.
But I did make one show last year, and that's about it. I feel like it's not up to my standards of what I would like to bowl like.
Of
So
course.
this year, my goal is to keep enjoying bowling, to not struggle with my physical game. I wanna miss the show because I just threw a bad shot or I just had, I don't know, some issue with this or that, not because for some reason I'm having struggles to get to the foul line
Hmm.
because my ball gets away from my body, my follow through gets away from me, I'm unable to throw it to the right, and suddenly every shot is tugged in. It's the issues that I feel like at my level, being professional bowler, I should not be facing, and I
Okay.
had been facing them for way too long. I would have this, I don't know how to call it. I wouldn't call it brain fart. It was just something really weird to where I would not be able to throw the ball to the right.
Okay.
Everything would be in, and I would try to figure out during the tournaments, like, how do I throw the ball to the right? Like, what's wrong? What's happening? And I think I'm already past that.
Okay.
I'm past that to where my physical game really gets in the way of my bowling when I'm bowling tournaments. So I just want to keep enjoying it and making sure I make, good educated guesses for what ball to throw, when to throw it, how to throw it. And
Hmm.
I'm able to execute it exactly what I want. And if it happens that I don't make the show, it's because of the decision making that maybe was not right,
Right.
not because my physical game gets in the way. And instead of going 10 to 5, I'll go 10 to 9 and
Hmm.
miss the pocket two out
Yeah.
of three times.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And would you kind of say, I guess, in a way, that's the same as your social media? You just want to continue to grow it, continue to be who you are, continue to make the content that you enjoy making, and just kind of continue to grow your channels and your following as much as possible?
Yeah, so I have not been very much focused on growing my following for the past year. I have not been posting very much on Instagram in general. I was just posting mostly stories and stuff for people that follow me to see what's up, what you doing, what's going on. I'm going through those periods of time when I'm not very active on social media at all, to where
Hmm.
I'm a lot more active on social media. It really depends if I'm feeling overwhelmed with life or not. The reason being is because on my normal day basis when I travel, I travel a lot and I see a lot of people and I do a lot of things. So social media starts to become a chore.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to become a chore. So I don't force myself to post when I don't feel like posting.
No.
Every time I post is because I truly feel like taking my phone out and start posting, right?
Okay.
And unfortunately, this past year I was traveling so much that I was getting a bit overwhelmed
Hmm.
and I really needed a break, right? Because if I'm surrounded with a lot of people because I'm doing clinics or tournaments with a lot of people when I'm signing autographs and pictures and then I post about it and then I get to the hotel room and I get all the replies to what I posted, slowly you start feeling overwhelmed. You start
Hmm.
feeling like you are just in that bubble that you cannot breathe.
Yeah.
And there's nothing bad about people messaging. I love when I get DMs, you know. I respond to a lot of DMs, I respond to a lot of comments, but sometimes seeing notification after notifications, that's one of the reasons why I have actually turned them off, right? But
Yeah.
once you open the app and you see all of this, it feels like you are lagging on some part. So if I see all the notifications, but I'm so overwhelmed or so busy that I just turn off the app, I feel like I'm not doing my job.
Yeah.
Right?
Understand.
It's like I should be replying to people, but I have no time, so tired. I need just to put Netflix on and not be around anyone, right? I'm
Yeah.
extroverted person with a very introverted soul. So I need to have charge my batteries when I'm by myself or when
Mm.
I'm surrounded with people that don't drain my battery. And there's not many people like that in general. So I tend to always make sure that I give myself enough time, right?
Yeah.
And one of the biggest differences that I see between me and my girls, Diana and Verity, we traveled together since 2017 for tour. When we ball and we come back to the hotel, I'm telling you, I blink and Verity is already showered in the bed and she's ready to sleep. And
Yeah.
Diana is very similar. Verity is the quickest. I am the one that I need so much time to rewind to the point where I figure that I have to start working on it because we finished bowling so late that if I need my 2 hours to rewind, you know, like an hour to get unready and an hour to like, you know, read a book or think about something or reply to messages to my friends and loved ones, it's 2 hours, 2 hours that I don't get of sleep. And then I'm like, not sleeping
Sure.
enough, but that's the time when I'm unwinding. That's the time when I'm
Yeah.
not really surrounded by people. Even though I'm with the girls, they never really drain my social battery, right? We
Yeah.
have learned how to be together but separate when it's needed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So all of this makes me overwhelmed. So going back to your question is that yeah, I'm gonna continue on posting on social media. I'm gonna continue posting on Instagram, Facebook. I'm gonna continue posting on YouTube. I actually wanted to start off my YouTube channel stronger this past year. I had an agreement with the videographer to be posting 2 videos a month, right? They were gonna go from like reviews of bowling balls to drills or to technical stuff to educate people or just to
Mm.
Q&As, right? Just so people can get to know me a little bit better. But unfortunately, the videographer that I had agreement with, he's a very busy guy and he hasn't had time to like edit my videos and stuff. So I'm like, okay, I understand. So my YouTube had been not really moving forward as much, but eventually I would love to be able to put some, you know, videos that would help people,
Yeah.
right? If I post a video about the bowling ball, I don't want this video to be looked at like, hey, I'm posting Zango label video, go buy it, go to your local shop and get it. You have to have it. I mostly want it so people see how it rolls. For me, if
Hmm.
they see me throwing the Zango label during the tournament, I want them to know why,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
like there's so many people that watch as woman ball that they are very intrigued and like, oh, why is she throwing that ball? But I've seen her YouTube video. She said that she's throwing it this and that, right? And it's like, oh, I think I need a ball like that. Or maybe I'm gonna buy it. Maybe not. Maybe I'm gonna keep watching, right?
Yeah.
So everything I do online, it's never been this massive marketing machine of like
Yeah.
trying to sell, trying to push. I actually decline over 95% of everything that I get offers to promote, right? I get so much stuff that they are like, hey, can you promote this or can you promote that? And I'm like, no, sorry.
No.
Like I can make some money, a couple $100 or three or whatever, right?
Right.
I'm willing to promote everything bowling oriented. So I'm willing to work with PWBA, with PBA, USBC, BPAA. Of course, my sponsors like 900 or Turbo or Bowler X, like I promote their products. The reason why I'm signing with them is not because they pay me, but because I have chose them. I
Right.
have chose every single sponsor that I'm with because I wanted to. I
Nice.
messaged Turbo 12 times asking for contract in 2016 because before they gave me a contract. I
Okay.
begged them to give me a contract. I'm like, you have to give me a contract. Like, there's no way you're not gonna give me a contract. So, you know, we were going back and forth with Turbo. And after I think around 12 emails from me, they were like, oh, okay, we can
Jeez,
give
just
you
take
a
it
contract.
already. Yeah.
Yeah. So all the brands I'm with, like I support them because those are the brands I've chosen. And the same with, you know, the same with 900 Global.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I don't want my social media to turn into money-making marketing machine because I am not an influencer. I'm not really a content creator either. I am
Right.
a athlete that shares my journey. And if anybody wants to jump on board and see how it looks for me, please, please do
Yeah.
it. I'm posting it all for you, right? All for people.
Right.
But this is not there to be a money-making machine for me. I'm gonna wanna believe that I can make a lot of money from winning tournaments. So that's why I have to practice a lot. So
Yeah.
that way I can make a living and make money through the primary priorities in our sport, through a primary way of how we would make money, we would think of making money in our sport. So through good performances.
Yeah, I love that answer. I mean, that was so well said because a lot of people will think, oh, hey, now she's just an influencer because she's always posting online. You're like, nah, I'm just doing it because it's me. I just enjoy bowling. Like, if you're not, you just admit that you don't take a lot of money or any money from just random companies. And I think, like I said, that's something that a lot of people probably have that kind of thought process about you because of the social media and everything like that. They're like, oh, she's getting paid to do this, she's getting paid to do that. It's like, nah, she's just doing what she wants to do. So I think that was a really good insight there. Do you want to give a shout out to, like, I know you kind of just gave a shout out to the companies, but do you want to give a shout out to anybody else who's kind of supported you, as well as where people can find you on your Instagram, like your handle, your YouTube handle, all that?
Yeah, so I'm sure if you put my name, Daria Pajak, on Google, you're gonna find my Facebook, my Instagram, my YouTube. Everything is the same handle. I also have a TikTok, and I'm trying to post a little bit more because I find a lot of joy in posting on TikTok. I have a Patreon page for the past 2 years when I post a lot of stuff that doesn't get posted on like other social media. So I would like to give a shout out to Patreons. There's some people that have been with me there since I started, you know.
Mhm.
So it's cool. It means a lot that I have that group of people that I truly know that they care. So I can say whatever is on my heart, in my soul, whatever feels heavy, and I can say it there. And I know I'm gonna get support. And even cooler it is to meet those people in real life. And I've met a lot of them on the bowling tournament, being like, "Hey, I'm subscribed to your Patreon. Thanks for all the knowledge and stuff." And I'm like, "Oh, that is so cool," you
Right.
know. So shout out to everyone that follows me online, and especially all the bowlers in general. I think bowling is it's such an amazing sport, and I feel like all your listeners are people who are bowling or have a
Mhm.
connection to bowling. So I want just to let them know that we are lucky, you know. There's a lot of sports that we could have done as kids. We could do softball, football, soccer, anything. But
Yeah.
by the time we're 30, 40, 50, have families, that would be long gone. The only
Right.
thing that would be left from it would be watching professional athletes doing that on the screen. When we have chosen bowling, like I have friends that are 49, and even today, I think Robert Smith, her birthday, 50th
Yep.
birthday, there are people that are waiting to age so that way they can participate in tournaments. What other sports do you know that people are waiting to turn 50 so that way they can compete against their peers, you know?
Right.
So I think bowling in general is such a great sport. So I'm very lucky that that was a sport I've chosen. And I feel lucky more now than I did when I was younger because now I can really appreciate it. The fact that I can bowl with my 60-year-old parents, that I can go and bowl with my 12-year-old cousin, that me and my boyfriend can go and work on our equipment together and spend hours at the bowling center.
Yeah.
It's something that my life has been evolving around because I truly enjoy it.
Mhm.
And I'm very happy that bowling is what I have chosen as a kid. And I'm very happy everyone that listens to your podcast also had did so.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And the last question I ask all my guests is, you've kind of already touched on it a little bit. What's that one piece of advice or tip that you could give to anybody listening that you think is going to help them see more success in bowling or just more success in life?
Well, I think that having a direction or sense of direction really helps, right?
Yeah.
So if it's in bowling, I think that you cannot coach yourself by yourself.
Mhm.
I feel like everybody needs a sense of direction. That's why I would always recommend to go and see a coach. In fact, I sometimes have issues understanding people that are aspiring to be professionals, but they have never worked with a coach. They've
Right.
only did it by themselves. And I do understand that if you have this natural talent or understanding of the game to where you can figure things on the fly by yourself, but you are surrounded by knowledge, right? So
Right.
if you're surrounded by very good bowlers that keep talking about ball motion, surfaces, course, you are surrounded by that. That could be enough for some, but for a lot of people, it's not enough. So having a coach is really important, you know. So I would say coach gives a sense of direction, and the same comes comes with life, right? If you have goals, you know where you're heading towards, it really helps knowing if you're on the right track. It's
Yeah.
very easy to feel overwhelmed not knowing if you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing or what it does it take. So the sense of direction, anything we do, is something really important. So I would encourage people to, get inside their minds and bodies and figure out what they really want.
Yeah.
Make a plan in their heads what they want. Contact the people that they need to contact that maybe they can help them with, and just chase those dreams.
I love that. Yeah, that is a great tip. And honestly, I think I'm gonna sit back in a couple of minutes and kind of take a look at where I'm going and what I want to do, because I think that's
Everyone
applicable.
needs to.
Yeah, I think that's applicable to everybody. But thank you so much for coming on and being the guest on the 100th episode of On the Gutter. It is so greatly appreciated. And as we continue to grow and as you continue to grow, hopefully we'll get you back on some point this year once you win another title, and we can kind of discuss everything at that point. But I greatly appreciate you taking time out of your day to jump on with us.
Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone that is listening. And I hope that we're gonna all meet one day, like pulling a tournament or something, right?
Yeah, that would be amazing. And everybody listening, thank you again for all your support for the 100th episode. And as always, stick around next week for another episode of On the Gutter. Thanks, Daria.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.